Hey there, folks. It's me, RC Mulhair, and I've been challenged by two friends at work to read one of my stories and record it. So I'll be reading from my novella, The House on Smithen Street, which I wrote originally for an anthology, but it didn't quite fit in because it was too long, amongst other things, which I'm fine with. Not you can't get every single story into every single book. So anyway, so I self-published this as a novella in the spring of 2020 because I wanted there to be something out there for you guys to read while you were all stuck in lockdown or what have you. So without further ado, this goes out to Bree and Bella, who were enthused to hear about my book, and they didn't have the money to buy it just yet. So I thought, I'm gonna do them a solid, and I'm gonna read it for them. So I'm gonna read probably one chapter a night as a spooky bedtime story for all of you. So this is the first of hopefully several chapters. Hopefully I can get them done consecutive nights. So, The House on Smithen Street, or From Out the Cellar by R.C. Mulhair. Dedicated for all the Irish immigrant women who have ever worked as domestic workers in the US of A, and for the Mellon family who left Ireland following the potato famine of the 1840s and started a new life in the city of Lowell. Also for the memory of Carrie Daniels, 1959 to 2019, the indie horror world here in New England lost a kind soul and editor. Number 72, Halloween Incident. Mirror in cellar, face seen therein, death. Claw mark? Question mark. H.P. Lovecraft from the Commonplace book, started in 1919. Monuxet, Massachusetts, September 1870. Your references tell us you were with the Cabot family for 10 years, Master Quentin Montague said, sitting across the rich Turkish carpet that graced the floor of his office, separating him and his wife Avril from the prospective chambermaid whom they interviewed. The candidate, Fiona Coneen, stood a little taller. If you please, sir, she paused, lightly clearing her throat. She continued, softening her brogue, which, even after the 20 years she had spent in the States, tended to come out when she felt nervous. She had found it odd that in a house as formal as this, the master and not the housekeeper would examine her prior to considering her. But every house had its way of managing itself. If you please, sir, I quit their service only when the household broke up at the death of old Mrs. Cabot. And how then did she pass from this world? Mr. Montague asked. The man cut an elegant figure, tall and robust, his dark hair silvered at the temples and threaded throughout the rest of his leonine mane, his gray eyes piercing and solemn as befitting a man of his station. His wife, Avril Montague, had a pleasantly abundant figure, stubbornly held in place by her violet bombazine gown and the stays clearly beneath it, her red gold hair neatly coiffed. Fiona trusted that she had a diligent lady's maid to assist her in fastening them. Sir, she died because she was 95 years old, Fiona replied. Mrs. Montague giggled behind her hand. Mr. Montague gave her a hard look, which quelled her mirth. You are an honest speaker, and your record speaks well to your reliability, Mr. Montague said. Are you given to drinking? Sir, we all need water, don't we? Fiona replied dryly. She knew full well why he asked, given her heritage. Years of employers and other native-born folk with proper English names had taught her to make a joke out of their assumptions, awkward and ignorant at best, insulting at worst. Mrs. Montague laughed out loud, despite her husband giving her another hard look. But do you indulge in strong drink? He asked. No more than a glass of wine on the odd Sunday, sir, Fiona said. Hopefully no more than one glass, Montague said, a look in his eye suggesting he would closely watch the levels of the decanters in his study. But given your steady application to your prior employers, I would say that you are worth hiring. Fiona felt her hope rise, but accustomed as she was to polite phrasing from employers hiding their intentions, she tempered this hope as best as she could. My wife and I will give your bid all due consideration. Where may we notify you when we have made our decision? Fiona gave them the address of her present lodgings at the day-to-day house in Centralville where domestics between the households lodged. We shall have word for you in due time, Mr. Montague said, turning away from her and back to the account books laid open upon his desk. You are excused till then. I hope that we have some news for you soon, Mrs. Montague said, though her husband turned a cool eye towards his wife's cheery dismissal. Clearly she had come up in the world, or from a more congenial family. Indeed, sir. Indeed, ma'am. Fiona dropped a neat curtsy before a footman showed her out the servants' and tradesmen's entrance. Once out on Sherman Street, she glanced back to the corner of Smithen Street, the main artery that ran through the Belvedere section of Monuxet, the Venice of Massachusetts, with its network of canals. She looked up to the house, a four-floor structure, the ground floor and first made of brick, the upper two covered in dark brown clapboards between windows that stared down at the street below, in particular the windows of the turret on the east corner. Fiona turned away and walked down Sherman Street, turning onto High Street, which ran into Middlesex Street. Following Middlesex across the Pawtucket Canal and past several recently built storefronts with apartments above them, she turned down Kirk Street, turning onto Lee Street and thence to St. Joseph's Church. She entered the gray granite edifice, going up the flight of stairs to the main chapel. Once through the doors, she took a knee, facing the high altar, and crossed herself before rising. Going to the statue of St. Joseph with his hammer on a long piece of wood, she lit a penny candle, saying a prayer that the good carpenter of Nazareth would put in a word that, despite the hardness of the master, she would soon have work with the Montagues. His wife could use a good pair of hands to help tend her household, and she needed the employment. The money she'd saved from her pay in Mrs. Cabot's service would run low soon, and she needed to keep a roof over her head. Father O'Brien, the priest ministering to the Irish newcomers in the city, emerged from the sacristy and approached her, nodding to her. "Still seeking work, Miss Kineen?" he asked in Gaelic after they had exchanged greetings. "I've just come from answering an advertisement that a Mr. Montague had posted to the Sun," she said. "It looks like a good prospect, room and board, along with a good wage. But I could use a prayer or two that the boss man won't be too hard and turn me down. His wife is a young creature who needs an experienced hand or two in her household. And you have plenty of experience behind you and strength for the years ahead," he said. "I'll remember you at my evening mass. But if by chance you haven't any luck with that one, Mrs. Bouthiette could use your help around the rectory." "I wouldn't want to impose on her domain, but I'll keep your offer in mind, Father," she said. "Might I have your blessing?" "Of course you may. Like as not, you need it now more than usually," he replied, raising his right hand in benediction as she knelt beside him. And that is the first of, goodness, I should know how many chapters are in this book. First of 10 chapters, plus a short story at the end. So hopefully over the next, 10, 11 nights, you'll have some spooky things to listen to. But it's kind of a quiet chapter to start out, but I assure you, it gets more exciting very quickly because there are some odd things going on in that house on Smithen Street. So, for now, I'm R.C. Mulhair, and you folks out there, have a good night and keep it spooky.